Welcome in to Duval Daily, presented by GenJag.com. I'm Jordan DeLugo. Thank you so much for tuning in. We are talking Jaguars versus Broncos in London right now, a Week 8 matchup between two teams that are 2-5. Yikes. The Jaguars host the Broncos for their annual London home game this week, which obviously eats into the Jaguars' games in Jacksonville every single year. We all know that by now. But let's take a look at this matchup here. Let's take a look at what's going on with these two football teams. First, I'd like to remind you to follow me on Twitter at Jordan DeLugo, Generation Jaguar, at Generation Jag. Please like and subscribe on YouTube, and if you want to support the channel further, you can go pick up some new gear at genjag.com. You can become a channel member. Links in the description below. All right, so both teams coming off 4 straight losses. Not pretty. It has not been pretty for fans of the Jaguars or the Broncos over the last month or so. This game is exclusively on ESPN Plus at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time for the first time ever. ESPN Plus exclusively streaming this game. The Jaguars are 2.5-point favorites with an over-under of 39.5. Vegas does not see a lot of points being put on the board in this one. We'll see how it plays out. The Jaguars are 4-4 across the pond. Trevor Lawrence earned his first career win in London last year over the Dolphins in a comeback effort. That was at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. This will be at Wembley. You know, the stadium Shad Khan tried to purchase a couple years back. Unsuccessfully, I might add. Will they be facing Russell Wilson, Brett Ripien? Wilson says he's playing after spending half his flight to London, annoying everyone on the flight by doing high knees. Broncos country, let's ride. We do know that the Jaguars will be up against Nathaniel Hackett, their former offensive coordinator, who is now the Broncos head coach. Is he going to be fired for the second time in his career during the season? There are some rumors spreading that the leash is not long for Nathaniel Hackett in Denver. Rumor is if the Broncos don't win this game, there could be a fire sale. Folks talking about Bradley Chubb, their star pass rusher, some of their receivers. Could Denver blow it up with new ownership, having heavily invested, going all in on quarterback Russell Wilson, and he's failed to deliver so far for the Broncos without question. But their defense is among the best in football. Very aggressive scheme that will use simulated pressure with varied fronts and varied coverages on the back end to confuse quarterbacks. The good news for Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars is the Broncos have not employed a ton of cover 2 this year, which is what Trevor Lawrence has struggled most with, dissecting that cover 2 defense. Having stars Patrick Surtain, Bradley Chubb, Justin Simmons, that does not hurt the defense. That helps the Broncos quite a bit. They've been without rising star pass rusher Randy Gregory, but young players like Baron Browning have stepped up in his place. But Browning is dealing with an injury issue of his own. And we will take a look at some of those injuries right now. The Jaguars placed starting outside cornerback Shaquille Griffin on injured reserve yesterday, so he will be out for at least 4 weeks. The only other injury to report for the Jaguars is Jamal Agnew, their starting kick returner / punt returner / wide receiver. He's dealing with a knee injury. He was limited for the Jaguars on Wednesday. He missed last week's contest. We'll see if he's able to get back going, get back healthy for this London showdown with the Broncos. Broncos have an extensive injury report from Wednesday, 10/26. The keys here are Baron Browning, who I mentioned, who's really stepped up in Randy Gregory's place. He did not participate in practice with a hip, and he's expected to miss several weeks. So it looks like the Jaguars might be facing a Broncos pass rush that is not anywhere close to full strength. They've also got starting left tackle Cameron Fleming, who did not participate in this practice with a quadricep injury, a quad injury, same thing that was bothering Foley Fatukasi on the Jaguars defense for several weeks. So we'll have to be locked into that. Defensive lineman Mike Purcell did not participate in Wednesday's practice with a knee injury. Starting inside linebacker Josie Jewell, he was limited with a knee injury, so he's certainly someone to keep an eye on. Russell Wilson was still limited. He says he's going to play with that hamstring injury, and I think he will. So those are the major injuries for the Broncos heading into this one. I think the biggest thing you can look at potentially is them being without, again, potentially being without their starting left tackle, potentially being down 2 of their top 3 pass rushers, their second and third pass rushers in this one, at least pass rushers from the edge. The Broncos defense has been lethal, though, with that pass rush, which might be ailing this week, with Patrick Surtain, Justin Simmons and Kareem Jackson on the back end. That secondary is pretty locked down. Teams have been forced to throw underneath. They've had some success over the middle of the field, but intermediate middle of the field is also where the Broncos have recorded all their interceptions this season. So it is dangerous territory going over the middle of the field against these Broncos. But underneath stuff, I think you could attack the rookie outside cornerback Damari Mathis. I think you can get some work done against the linebackers in this system. But certainly targeting Patrick Surtain, Justin Simmons, Kareem Jackson has not led to much success for teams this year. The Jaguars do have a high-powered offense of their own when it comes to moving the football. Of course, they've struggled to punch it in at times. James Robinson is no longer part of it, the running back that was shipped to New York for a conditional 6th-round pick that becomes a 5th if he gets 260 more rushing yards this year. But the Jaguars, they've got speed in the backfield. They've got Travis Etienne, JaMychal Hasty. Etienne's averaging over 8 yards per carry the last 3 weeks. Right at 8 yards per carry the last 3 weeks, over 6 on the season. And they've got a young quarterback coming into their own in Trevor Lawrence. He's 7th in DVOA among quarterbacks in the NFL, scored 12 total touchdowns to just 4 interceptions. He's looked really good for the Jaguars. Hasn't been perfect, has had some ups and downs, but you see the growth in Trevor Lawrence's game this year. No question about it. Now, can the Jaguars figure out a way to not beat themselves in this one? We'll find out. The book has been written on the Jaguars' defense, right? They struggle with the read option. Daniel Jones showed you that last week. They struggle with tempo and quick game, and opposing teams have learned to really target the outside corner playing opposite Tyson Campbell. Until this defense, until Mike Caldwell, the defensive coordinator, is able to change that, is able to rewrite the book, opposing offenses should look to exploit those weaknesses. They should continue to exploit those weaknesses. What's interesting about Russell Wilson, however, is he's really struggled short over the middle of the field. That really hasn't been his game throughout his career. He's been kind of a deep ball quarterback. So will the Broncos be able to capitalize on the Jaguars' weaknesses there? Russell Wilson is not the athlete he used to be. He's certainly not on the level of Jalen Hurts or even Daniel Jones. So it'll be interesting to see how the Broncos' offense tries to attack this Jaguars' defense. The Jaguars should win this game, right? They're favored. They're familiar with London. They have a quarterback playing at a higher level right now and a team that just feels closer to playing winning football, right? They have a positive point differential on the season. They're barely losing these games. But the Jags have been their own worst enemy late in games when it matters most. Mental lapses by players and coaches alike have led to a month-long losing streak. Will it end in London? Is a win calling in London for these Jacksonville Jaguars? We will find out on Sunday, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time, only on ESPN+. That's going to do it. Thank you so much for tuning in, Duval. Hit me up on Twitter at Jordan DeLugo, Generation Jaguar, at Generation Jag. You can also hit that like and subscribe button if you enjoy the content. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss a show on here. And of course, check out genjag.com. Get you some new Duval gear. You can become a channel member here on YouTube as well. We appreciate your support greatly, Duval. Have a great rest of your Thursday.